I'm getting a divorce. It is true. I am currently undergoing a divorce and I decided to turn it into content. Um, if you were expecting me to give like a usual accessibility talk that you would find at a conference or event, I am so sorry. You're going to be so disappointed in this because that is not the type of talk I'm giving today. It's not for a lack of trying, because I did try. It's one of the reasons why I postponed Crystalcon for 2 weeks. It's just that when I started to look more into the divorce process for myself personally, because as I said, I am getting a divorce, uh, but also trying to like gather data for a talk, realize this is so fucking hard.
I can't believe I have to know you forever!
Oh, you're fucking insane! And you're fucking winning!
Okay, I don't hate my ex. Definitely, we never had a scene like that. I am very fortunate that my divorce is amicable and we are able to work together to get a divorce. So there's no contention and things like that. Um, we're reverting back to friends. We were friends before we got married, and we are going back to being friends after we get married. But even though that we're reverting back to friends, it doesn't mean that this isn't emotionally taxing, because it absolutely is emotionally taxing. You know, going from sharing your life, your home, your hopes and dreams, your cats with someone for almost 10 years to going to living by yourself in a single apartment home type of deal.
I sleep in a racing car. Do you?
I sleep in a big bed with my wife.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, to like try to create a conference talk where you need to do all this gathering of sources and then like, you know, and data and like testing and verifying that. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Actually, I do. I was overthinking, because since all this began, quite reasonably, my anxiety has been up to 11. And that's both just general anxiety and social anxiety. When I start thinking and when I start overthinking, that is when I just start doing too fucking much. I told you there were going to be a lot of F bombs in this, and this is the session where those F bombs are just flowing out of me. Well, anyway, you're not my therapist, and you are here because you want to know about accessibility.
Y'all don't want to hear me, you just want to dance.
And again, I'm not giving you a traditional talk. I'm not going to do a deep dive. At least right now, I am going to do a deep dive in the future. And it's going to be not just about divorce, but kind of more of like in general, the legal system, touching on criminal and civil legal aspects and digital accessibility in both those two sides of the legal system. So, but right now, what I'm going to bring you are 8 kind of initial high level thoughts I've had since I've been undergoing this process. So hopefully you're going to enjoy this 8, because if you don't, it, I don't know what to do for you. 8 is enough. And yes, I'm dating myself with that reference, even though that show was old when I was a kid. 8 is enough. Okay, let's get into it. Number one, and this would be number one, even though I'm not doing these in any particular order. But if I did, this would be number one, no matter what. Form accessibility on like law firm websites. One of the things you do, one of the first things you do when you get your when you say we need to get a divorce is you start looking for lawyers.
And lawyers, guns, and money.
And naturally, that's what I did. And when you go into law firm websites, especially, I'm just looking, I was just looking for divorce lawyers. The forms were bad. A lot of, unlabeled form fields, a lot of weird kind of controls that don't really work right, especially with screen readers and assistive technology. It was a lot of that, even in the, kind of dozen law firm websites I looked at. I didn't, I'm in Colorado. I'm not really doxing myself. It's people know I'm in Colorado. If you look at my name, it's going to say Colorado. But I looked for lawyers within Colorado, and that is, so a couple dozen. That was kind of the main thing that stuck out is that you would go, try to, if you're going to fill out for a free consultation, they ask you to fill out a form, and those forms were pretty inaccessible. Now, kind of on top of that, a lot of these websites also had overlays, digital accessibility overlays. So that was fun. And when I say that was fun, I mean it wasn't fun. Mainly, oh my gosh, I'm kind of crying because I'm at the end of my vision day. Poor credits. My vision is, it's like I have one eye that's really not functional, and then I have this other eye that has limited function, and it's after hours. So if you see me crying, I'm not crying because of this, because I'm just crying because it is the end of my vision day. But getting back to overlays. So overlays were pretty common, and I don't understand given that out of a lot of businesses and organizations that should have some idea of the liability as accessibility overlays bring, you would think law firms would be wary of adding those onto their sites. That is not the case because a lot of them had it. And that was fun because one of the things when I'm on my screen reader, especially when I'm doing stuff personal, when I'm not at work and stuff, I use a mobile screen reader. Mobile screen readers, at least the one I use, don't really get along great with overlays. So, take that. I'm on a mobile screen reader. I'm already kind of emotionally charged. There's forms that are kind of not working the way they should. It was a lot. It was overwhelming. So overlays, bleh. And then, okay, and so you got inaccessible forms. You got accessibility overlays. And then on the cherry on top is chatbots. So right when you're kind of just at the thing, so can this just get any more fucking worse? You get a chat bot pops out. It's like, do you want a free consultation? I don't know. Why do you think I'm on this website for a divorce lawyer? Of course, I want a consultation, but now you have popped up. My screen reader is just over it. So now, no, I don't want one. So I'm going to leave this place. So chatbots on top of those so that is 1, 2, and 3. Form accessibility, bad. Overlays, bad. Chatbots, bad. And now we're going to get into number 4. Say you're like, I'm not going to deal with a lawyer. I'm going to DIY this, which that's what I'm doing. Well, unless you are in a particular situation, kind of like me or something else, DIY is a rarity. It is really hard to do DIY, a divorce. Yes, technically it will save you thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, depending on what you're dealing with. But it is rare to do that because the divorce process is so complicated. And that's why usually you do need a lawyer. And this also, one, just complicated. And this goes into number 5. One of the things is that not every state has accessible forms. And when I say accessible in this context, I mean forms that you can download from a website. Colorado is a state where if you go onto the Colorado state website, go under divorce, it has all the forms that you need. It breaks it down about if you have kids, you don't have kids, if you've, going through a legal separation, all of that. You can download it, you can fill those out, and you can, if you wanted to, and if you are able to, you can DIY your divorce. But say if you lived in a state like Mississippi, you can't do that. They do not have forms that you can access online. You have to go into the courthouse. And depending on how that is, I hadn't gotten there yet. You either have to go to the county that you were married in, or it can be the county that you're getting divorced in. But either way, you have to physically go there. And that may be a big issue, not just with mobile, like, physical disabilities, but if you have your, transportation is, inconsistent, or you don't have any at all. I don't know the public transit system in Mississippi, so it could be a real big hardship to try to go to a courthouse to get all that stuff filed and do that whole thing. So 6 is, even if you have a state like Colorado that has downloadable forms, those forms are most likely are going to be PDFs, and those are going to be inaccessible PDFs. Okay, because you're in PDF hell, and I'm crying again. That's PDF hell. That's how sad it is. Yes. So one of the things is, as I was looking at the forms to fill out, downloading these forms, it was hard to go through them, whereas I could navigate, as long as I wanted to go to a link, I could, but I couldn't even read the actual directions. That was something that was not happening with the forms that I was downloading. It was just like, no bueno at all. So so even if you're like, I'm going to DIY and my state has forms online that I can download, you can get those forms, they're PDFs. And then if you do need to access like an accessible PDF, you might be out of luck. So yeah, more fun, PDF hell. So 7 is a lack of simplified language. It is legalese for a lot of these, like, especially when it comes to the state and local governments. Like it's a lot of legalese. Colorado, again, I live in Colorado. That's where I'm getting divorced. That's where I'm having a lot. That's what I'm comparing other things to. Colorado is pretty good at actually simplifying the language, especially when it comes to, the process. Because again, divorce is not a it can be very complicated, and on top of that, when you're adding a lot of legalese and you're not specifying, like, where it can make it very rough on top of all the other kind of inaccessible things that you're dealing with, and the emotional things that you're dealing with. So a lack of, and I went on others, I went on, looked at a few other states, and that's something that was common. It was that there was a lack of really kind of simplifying the language so people could understand what was going on. Because even if you're not trying to do a DIY divorce, even if you just want to know how to follow what your lawyer is doing, because I think the accountability, understanding what is going on, you want to do that. And it may, when you don't have kind of simplified language and it's all kind of like legal jargon, like it's hard. I mean, this is coming from someone who failed 2 semesters of Latin, quintus est romana plura. Okay, and the last one is a family circus of links. This ties into number 7, the simplified language. And yes, I did date myself with the family circus. If you don't know what I'm talking about because you are a small baby that was like born like in the 2000s, which anybody born in the 2000s is a small baby. There's there's cartoon called Family Circus, and there's this little kid in like some of the cartoons. It would just show the path he would take for like going home or doing something. It annoyed the hell out of me. I hated that cartoon because I always want to like take your ass home and stop messing around neighborhood. Just other people don't want all that. Like, so that's the thing. That's how these links feel in a lot of documents that I was able to access. It was a lot of, okay, if you have kids, it's the 5th of April, Mercury's in retrograde, you need to go to this form PFDGAB123. And it was a lot of it, and then that form would tell you, well, if you decided to, I don't know, eat a cookie last, May, then you need to go here and then submit this. It was there's a lot of jumping back and forth. There's a lot of it, and I know because some of these forms get added in after the fact. They don't make all these forms all together. So there's a lot of jumping around. But again, it makes it very hard to follow. Even, again, I know this is not all, not everyone's going to be doing a DIY divorce. But again, even if you're just wanting to know what your lawyer is doing, it makes it hard to follow. And your lawyer may also ask you to fill something out there, unless you have a really good lawyer where they literally do everything for you. A lot of lawyers ask you what, like you need to fill this out. So you jumping through, hoops trying to figure out what your lawyer wants to give to you. Yeah, it can hard. There's a lot of links and they're confusing. And then I think, I'll add a bonus in. So number 9, just money.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around.
We're doing it. We're doing a DIY. I keep saying DIY, DIY. I'm over it. I know you're over it. I'm definitely over it. That doing it or like doing a divorce myself costs only a couple $100 versus going through a lawyer. I mean, at the low end, you have to get a retainer And the low end that I was quoted was like $3,000. And that's just the baseline. You're paying more for that. But, 3,000, on the, again, it's probably not going to be 3,000. It's going to probably, it was all like, if it's all said and done between, 8 to 10,000. And that's because, again, going through a very amicable, no fault divorce to 10, 20, hundreds of $1,000s, billions, depending on what you're working with. But I think if you're dealing with billions, you don't really care about accessibility. Let's be honest. You got billions of dollars, you don't care. You're trying to go to the moon. You know, I mean, if I had millions of dollars, I'd be trying to go to the moon too.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
That's it for this. This is what you get. I didn't do and traditional accessibility session, a usual accessibility talk, because I don't want to do that. I got my eye that's like watering, that's like, again, it's over it. I'm over it. Like I'm stressed out. I am going to give you a proper research, facts and figures talk about digital accessibility within the legal system, but it won't be today, not during CrystalCon, probably 2024. I'll be honest, that's probably when you're going to get it. So, unless you try to do it yourself, and if you do, go ahead. And when you do, I will do one to spite you. No, I won't. Okay, this talk is done. Good